Hello, light beams. Welcome to the Brittany Renee Experience podcast. I am your host, Brittany Renee, and I am so grateful, so excited, and so ready to hop into this space and start to play and expand with you. So, for those of you who are brand new to me, I am a psychic intuitive, an energy healer, a channel. I work with embodiment. I do motivational speaking, work deeply with divine feminine and divine masculine, and learning how to step into the balance of both. And I just lead you into your expansion. So on this podcast, we are going to talk deeply about all things consciousness, mindfulness, expansion. We're going to go into the shadowy aspects and find tools of how to walk in those spaces and come out stronger. And we're also going to talk about how to expand your edges and push into the life of your wildest dreams. I am so grateful and so excited to also share so many amazing guests that are going to be gracing us with their presence. In this podcast, you're going to hear me doing channeling updates, energetic updates, teachings, tools, activations, meditations. And then I also am going to have other guests who are going to come in and share their knowledge, their tools, and help us expand even more in other realms and dimensions. So for those of you that are now here, please like, subscribe, and share. And I love you already. All right, so today we're going to just jump right in. I'm very, very heavy in my heart around what's happening collectively right now. So we're going to talk about energetics, about what's happening. So we are coming into round out the end of 2023, which is so wild to me. Time has been so expansive and intense and quick, and at the same time, slow tempoed this past year. And as we walk into October, there's a lot that I want to share with you guys around what I've been seeing when I work and get into channel. I work deeply with my ancestors, obviously with higher self, spirit, God. I'm also working with a lot of star and galactic beings. So I am deeply with the Arcturian teams, the Arcturian Council. I also work with Ashtar Command of Light and Palladian Syrian, Blueprinter, lots of things. So throughout this podcast, throughout your experience here, you will hear me kind of channel and talk about a lot of different energies and beings. And if you ever have questions, nothing is ever silly. Please drop them down into the comments and I will get back to them as soon as I can. So let's talk about energetically what's happening. So coming into October and really rounding into the beginning of January, this seems to be a portal way for many of us. And it's a beautiful portal way if we allow it to be, and if we're prepared, and if we're mentally in the knowing that as we are finishing up this calendar year, as it's laid out, at least in the calendar here, that we are going to have a lot of things that are plot twists. We are going to have things shake up. We are going to release things. We are going to have to be in active surrender and, in my opinion, gratitude, so we can more effortlessly move through these spaces and places. So you might be asking, what does that mean? So coming into October, November, and December, we obviously have holiday season, which has its own parts and pieces that we're going to navigate. And energetically, we're coming into, I believe, quite a few eclipses. We are coming into energetically an even wider expansion of what some people are referring to as the ascension arc. Many of you at this point are very well versed and know that we have third dimensional reality, fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensional reality, and everybody is in their own space. Everybody is in their own lane. Everybody is using their free will to choose exactly where they are. Now, the beauty of this is that we have so much more consciousness on the planet at this time, and so many people are remembering who they are. Part of my mission, a huge part of my mission here, is to help you remember who you are at soul level. And when I say that, you might be like, what does that mean? So one of the sessions that I offer is called Soul Realignment. This is where we deep dive into your Akashic records. And I help remind you, because you already know all of these codes. I'm just turning on light switches with you to remind you where the light switch is at. Remind you where your soul originated. And sometimes we go into past lives. We talk about karmic contracts. We get into anything that needs to be really witnessed, seen, cleared, alchemized, brought up for you to live a more soul-driven life, a life that is actually more embodied, not out of the programs that we've been taught, but actually out of who you are as a soul. So that session is beautiful. It's exciting. It's amazing. And it's also one of those spaces that normally most clients get emotional because they realize I don't really know exactly what we're talking about. And at the same time, I am totally here for whatever this is because my soul feels seen. I'm emotional because I feel heard. I feel like there is a space that I'm getting ready to walk into and step into that I've never really been in before. And at the same time, I know is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Many of you who are listening are probably like, yeah, I have totally been in that space before. And it's a pretty expansive space. So a couple things that I want to talk about, regarding energy and kind of coming off of soul driven life and soul realignment pieces is it's really important right now, more than ever, for you to really know who you are, for you to understand why you're here. What is your mission? What are you calling in? And what does that mean for you as a human? So to be prepared to walk into this next level, this next layer, this next transformative portal that we're walking into in October, November, and December is the journey. If it isn't already starting for you, the journey is going to start for you really soon. It's going to start because the frequency in the planet is changing. The frequency is rising in many spaces. And what that means is that the veils of illusion are no longer here. It means that who you may have thought you were or be operating as might not fully be true for you. And it might become so obvious that you are not fully in your authenticity. And the reality is, all of us know deep down when we're in a space that we are deeply in authenticity. We all know when we're in a space where we are being fed at soul level and fueled at the human level. And when we're witnessed and growing and stretching, we know when we're there. The part to figure out is, where am I not there? Where can I stretch? Where can I expand? Where am I walking into spaces and shrinking or compressing? I like to tell clients, you're either compressing or expressing, and it's one or the other. And the goal in this human experience is to be an expression, divine self-expression. It is to be in a space where you don't have to hide anything. You don't have to bend yourself. You don't have to hide your truth. You are fully embodied in who you are. And if you're listening to this or watching and you're saying, well, I think I'm pretty embodied. Like, I think I got most of it figured out. But I don't know, maybe I don't. And if there's any question, I'm going to give you a couple thoughts to sit with. So one is that the version that you are presenting at home to your closest people, to your family, to your partner, to your kids, is that version the same version that you present to the outside world, to work, to your social media? And if you're like, well, no, obviously those are two different people. But why? But why? And the answer may be, well, because, this version of me is most accepted here, and this is what people want. We are in a lot of energy right now where we feel at times that we have to live double lives. And I will be the first one to say, I know in my past, years back, that I had a hard time fully embodying my truth. I've grown up on stages. I've grown up in pageants. I've grown up speaking, and I love all of that. But there were a lot of spaces that I felt like I needed to just be what was expected. I needed to say what was expected, what the people wanted. And in reality, the journey in my awakening has been deeply to find my authenticity and to step into owning that I am a whole being. And this big, beautiful, expansive energy that I house and hold are my unique codes that are actually what help shift the planet. They're how I help shift the planet. And when you're separating your energetics, you're literally creating like fractals. You're setting yourself in two different spaces, and that's not a whole being. And if you're thinking, well, I can't do this, I can't be embodied, I can't show up in that way, that's a program, and that's a belief. And I'd love for you to ask if it's actually serving you. And if it's only serving you because it's giving you a paycheck, or it's, just easier because you don't want to be the big loud one who speaks their truth and their opinion that goes against the grain, my love, you are here for so much more. And money is energy. And yes, you may be making good money. You might even be making great money. You might be in a space that you're like, well, everybody likes me here. And, I've got some status and I've got some years under my belt at this job, and it's okay. Yet at the same time, you don't feel full. Yet at the same time, you can't even really utilize all of the resources that you have because you don't even really know who you are. You're scared to be who you are. This whole podcast, my whole mission, is going to continuously be to call you up to the version of you that is whole and that is embodied and that is authentic. And I will tell you that as you rise your frequency, as you really get to ground into, I don't have to live a double life. I get to be exactly who I am. And it is not my responsibility what other people's reactions are to that. Because when I'm in my embodied truth, their reactions can't rock me. And when you get to that space and you up-level your frequency, you actually start to magnetize the people who will sit with you and celebrate your wholeness. They'll sit with you and celebrate the differences that you might even have. And they'll celebrate your opinion and your audacity to be authentic and true. And no matter how much physical money you're housing, you will be so much more abundant mentally, emotionally, physically, monetarily when you become embodied, when you become who you are and you know why you're here, and you no longer stand under fear of truly showing up. So as we're walking into these next few months, I would love for you to sit in reflection and ask yourself, am I living a double life? Am I one person here and another person here? It's exhausting. And I'm going to invite you to let the two meet, rub edges, touch, melt into one another. And start to notice who the being is that emerges from that melting of those two spaces. I have experienced in my own life, and I've witnessed it with clients and with people that I am even just friends with. When you are not fully embodied and your embodiment is calling you, at times it can look like worlds are colliding. It can feel like an internal battle. It can feel like my heart is here, but my head is here. And they're not allowed to be in the same space. And I'm just going to call bullshit on that. Because the biggest lie that we tell ourselves is that we have to limit what we get in this lifetime, that we have to compromise somewhere, that we have to bend somewhere. And while compromise is a beautiful thing, especially in any kind of a relationship or connection or business partnership, the compromise can still be a win-win. Compromise has this energy around it that you have to give up a part of you to get what you want. And I don't believe that. I think the redefinition is, how do I still feel full, fed, embodied, while also honoring the space that I want this other being to feel full, fed, and embodied? There is normally, I would say, a 90% chance, if not higher, probably more like 98, 99, that you can find a way to do that, especially if you are in an unconditional space and you know who you are, because it will not be triggering when you meet people or entertain business with people or relationships when they may be different than you, as long as you can witness and honor them for their own path. Those of us who have a hard time in compromise, those of us who really struggle to be in those spaces, it's only because there's parts of you that are getting triggered because your authenticity is getting questioned. Your embodiment is being questioned. Your triggers are your path to your healing. They are your path to your expansion. They are your path and exact step to actual radical embodiment and authenticity. And I think at times it's hard when you're merging spaces and you're stepping into spaces, places, relationships that make you question your programming systems, your belief systems. It's not comfortable. I can speak that one from experience too. It's not comfortable, y'all. Growth is not comfortable. And if you're being pushed into a space that your heart, right? Let's go back to the heart and head. That your heart is telling you, this is exactly what I want. But then your head pops in and your ego pops in and your belief systems and your programs and your lineage, your expectations from your family, expectations that you think are from your job. When those start to pop in and give you 10 million and one reasons why your heart's not right. When you follow the head more than the heart, you are going to find yourself in a path that is not very fulfilling. And most likely that is because you are following systems, programs, maps, and beliefs that may not be serving you. Maybe the person that you want to be with doesn't look exactly like you thought they might look. Maybe there's parts of your world that might rub up against their world and it might feel uncomfortable because you have to question things. This is the biggest space of expansion. And relationships, whether they're romantic or platonic, are your biggest space of expansion. People will mirror to us things that need witnessed, things that need healed, things that need loved on, programs and beliefs that are trying to come up to be like, hey, is this still working for us? Like, is this still a truth for us? Is this actually still what we want? And you really have to allow yourself to sit there. I guess you don't have to. If you want to live a mediocre space where, yeah, you might be, rolling through life, and at the same time, you're not really full and having fun and thriving, you're just going through the motions, you don't have to look at these things. But if you actually choose to get curious and lean into what might feel shadowy, what might feel triggering, if you can stay in that density for a moment, to witness where you're uncomfortable, to witness why you're triggered, and actually a step further to reflect, to self-reflect on your belief systems around whatever's coming up for you. When you sit in that and you start to witness and you start to get curious, is this actually a belief system that I actually want? This is where magic happens. This is literally the space that you get to decide who you are at a deeper level. And if you are still making choices out of what's comfortable, you're not going to receive the magic that you're here for. So I invite you, when you are triggered, when you're seeing a mirror or a reflection of something, to get curious. Why am I so triggered? Why is this so uncomfortable? And at times, the answer actually is that frequency just doesn't align with you for one reason or another. When you're in relationships with people of any kind and you're healing and you're working through things, your frequency will shift. And let's just talk like scientific things for a beat. When your frequency shifts, those around you actually have the ability to also shift. Those around you, though, also have the ability to not shift and to stay. And what happens when you have, like, imagine magnets, right, that aren't in the proper side to magnetize to each other, when certain frequencies get in spaces with each other, sometimes they will polarize. And I've seen this in my personal life. I see this in my clients, in relationships, a lot of times in loving relationships, but sometimes in just platonic. In relationships, when one partner is committed to doing the work, they have had an ego death. They realize that they are constantly evolving and that they are being constantly presented with opportunities for growth. And that triggers can become the biggest, most beautiful growth piece. When someone is in that space, and when another person is choosing to stay in their ego, and they are choosing to not be self-accountable, and they are choosing to not self-reflect, and they are choosing to only do the work enough till they get uncomfortable, but then they backtrack to their comfort zone. Those two energies will not be able to be in the same space for an extended amount of time. And it is not I'm above or they're below. It is not that energy. It's just the truth of the frequency. The beautiful thing within relationships, and this is romantic and platonic as well, is that when you do the work, you may be actually really surprised in a beautiful way that you can catalyze your partners, your business colleagues, your family, your friends into their own journey and into their own work. And I have beautiful, beautiful testimony of witnessing couples and friendships and business relationships that have grown exponentially from allowing themselves to sit in the uncomfortable and not continue to say, well, this is just how it is. If your mentality anywhere is a very deep black and white program or belief of this is just how it is, this is truth, you may find yourself having a harder go in expanding, because we have to realize and set down that the truth to us today may not be the truth to us tomorrow. And that's called evolving. It's called expansion. And you weren't wrong yesterday in your truth. You just found an up-leveled version today. And that's the goal, y'all. It's the goal is to grow. And so coming into, this transformation period that we're coming into 2024, you're going to get called up. You're going to get called into authenticity. You're going to get called into embodiment. And if you are pushing against it, and if it's seemingly continuing to circle back into your orbit to look at something, if you left one relationship and you go to enter to another, and yet, oh, here we are, same things are happening. You are literally getting pushed into spaces to witness parts of you that aren't embodied, that aren't authentic, programs you're running that don't actually match who you are as a soul. And if you can give yourself one gift and one promise to yourself over these next 90 days, promise to yourself that you're going to stay open. Promise to yourself that you're going to allow yourself to pivot. Promise yourself that you're going to at least sit in the what if. What if my belief isn't necessarily true for me? What would that look like? And I know the tiny pivots are the ones that lead to quantum leaps. Quantum leaping is a huge thing right now. You're seeing it all over social media. You're seeing it all online. I'm quantum leaping. I'm quantum jumping. And this is great and beautiful. We can all do this. We have untapped potential most of the time. But you don't just jump to quantum leaping. It's tiny pivots to turn you to the timeline that you can quantum leap into. You will not get to the quantum leap. You will not get to the life that you want that is fulfilling and authentic and aligned without getting really honest with yourself, without witnessing the things that Spirit and God are putting into your life time and time and time again. One of the biggest catalysts for me in relationships was, and this is platonic and romantic, is what is this teaching me? How am I showing up? Am I showing up in a way that's fully authentic for me? Am I able to fully be myself? Who I am on my podcast, is that who I am with my partner and with my best friend? And for me, the answer is yes. And the beautiful thing about coming into this embodied space is that there's no need to hide. You know who you are. You're not scared of anyone else's reaction because it doesn't matter. Are they taking up space in your mind? Is their reaction taking up space, living rent-free in your energy field? It's time to open the door. And I know this is kind of dropping in from spirit. Some of you may be, hearing this and saying, well, sometimes though, I follow my heart and I try to get into these spaces, but my head tells me not to go there, not to do that because it's not safe or something like that, right? Now, we're going to be in uncomfortability and growth, but there's a lot of people who, when we get into these talks, will start to say, well, what about, narcissist relationships? And this is like parental, romantic, platonic, what if my heart loves like that narcissist or that toxic energy? And my head is actually going to help me get out of that. That is a caveat that every situation is different. And what I tell any client or anyone that kind of brings that up is like, well, what about this though? Our attachment bonds are very important, in my opinion, for us to know. Our inner child healing is essential, I believe, for everyone to evolve and expand. Because when you can sit with your inner child, you actually get to see why you operate as an adult like you do in such a clear yet simplistic way. And it's always a gauge for me on where people are in their journey, where they are actually in their authenticity and where they are in their embodiment. When my question to them is, so tell me about your inner child. Tell me what work you've done there. How's your relationship with your inner child? How often do you witness them and see them and talk to them? How integrated are they in your life? And if the answer is not very much, or yeah, well, I've done a session, it tells me where your ability and willingness to expand is. And again, no harm, no foul if that's not the flavor that you're choosing in this lifetime. But it is the exact key and the essential key to unlock a lot of things. And so rounding out back to, well, what about narcissistic relationships or toxic relationships? The reason that we step into those spaces ever is because we are seeking or feeling fed by an energy that feels good at first. You get love bombed, you get all of the gifts, you get all of the attention, you get many, many pies to eat on. But then what happens? The pies turn to slices, the slices turn to breadcrumbs, and the breadcrumbs end up being absent. And right when you start to spiral out of, well, I'm no longer going to be there because I don't want to be starving, the breadcrumbs come back. Sometimes a slice even comes back. But the reason that we walk into those spaces is really where the reflection in that is. What within you is still even allowing a narcissistic energy to feed off of you, to be in your orbit, to be around you? The finger pointing game and the blame game are doing nothing for you, my love. They're not. The gold and where you find like, okay, but my head's telling me to leave because this is toxic, but my heart loves that person. Okay, totally valid and totally fair. Totally something that happens a lot. So the work then in those spaces is, what is within me? And a lot of times it's our inner child. What is within me that feels like I still need to be here to love on this person, or I need to beg for the bare minimum of love? What is within me? And when you start to go from your head into your heart and you find that middle ground, you find your voice, you find the reasoning that you are even magnetizing these energies to you, calling these energies into you. That's where your heart will start to want to protect itself. And your mind will remind you why. So no matter where you're at in this space, the heart is always going to be the space that feels the most fueling, in my opinion. And sometimes, though, our heart needs to remember and learn how to protect ourselves, how to protect itself in a way that doesn't magnetize toxic people, toxic relationships. All of the work starts within. So throughout our journey together, in this Brittany Renee experience, in the experience that you're going to have alongside all of the amazing guests that we're bringing on, is really going to be this constant reflection of inner world, inner self, inner work. And all of that is the primary focus for these next few months as we come into 2024. So I want to give you some prompts, some things to sit with and think about. Where are you living duality? Where are you living dual lives? Where are you living and showing up in one container a certain way and in another container a different way? And then the question is, are you able to allow all these versions of you to come together, to be one? The answer is yes, but it's, are you willing? Are you willing to share who you actually are with your family? Are you willing to be the black sheep, quote unquote, of your family because you actually want to break the cycle of toxicity? You want to break the cycle of unembodied, not authentic energy. Are you willing to do that? I know that I am. I know that people who are coming along the journey with me are ready because they're exhausted of being multiple different versions. They're tired. They're tired of performing. They're tired of bending in ways that they don't like. They're tired of running. They're tired of running into alcohol. They're tired of their nightly glass of wine just to be able to take the craziness off of the day. Like, if you are running to a substance to unwind, there's no judgment here, by the way, but why? Why aren't you living and walking in an existence that is fueling you? There is something out of line if you are needing a substance to unwind. Your soul is trying to tell you something's not right here. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Sit with that. The other thing to sit with are, do I have the proper tools to walk into the season where the snow globe that I live in is going to get shaken up and turned upside down, and there's going to be plot twists, and there's going to be all these things that I may have to surrender, but I also trust and know it's because the most beautiful expansion is coming in 2024, and the miracles and the favor and the abundance and the happiness and the joy that I want, the catalyzing points are coming in now for me to get there. Do you have the tools that you need to navigate the fire? Do you have the tools that you need to show up unapologetically, unshakable? Do you have the ability and the knowing within you to walk into rooms where you may be the only person with your opinion? These are questions to sit with. And if you don't have the tools yet, the next step is to find them. To do more research into finding a tribe, finding a mentor, finding a community, finding products that can help you. You have got to be prepared for the expansion that is coming. And it's not fear-invoking. It's not scary. It's exciting, y'all. You today, right now, can say, I choose better. I choose to elevate. I choose to expand. And whatever that means, I know that I'm equipped with what I need to move through that. And if I'm not equipped, I am open and willing and ready to have those tools magnetized to me. And I'm going to have the courage to step in and accept those tools and that help and that mentorship. If not now, when? And if it's not you, then who's going to do it? Who's going to change the world with me? Who's going to show up and start to create a new path for their lineage, for their ancestry, for their children, for their family, for the people that they lead in business? If not you, who? Nobody has your codes. Nobody has your experience to a T. Nobody has the channel and the voice that you have. And you are a big, magical being that is here to be in divine self-expression as an embodied, authentic soul. So I would invite you to ask yourself, where am I not embodied? Where in my life am I also lit up? Where am I excited? Where am I on fire? Where do I feel like so free, so expansive, so seen, so witnessed? And if you're thinking to yourself, I don't really have spaces like that, the rooms and the people are waiting on you. The tables are waiting on you. And it's a pretty simple code to get into those doors. It's truth. It's truth for yourself. It's truth for remembering that everything that you want is here. You're just not tapped into it quite yet, maybe. And the person that you see yourself in, that dream vision, the one that you daydream about, the version of you that has all of the things that you want, it's waiting for you. But the space you have to walk through is truth. You have to allow your ego to die. Things you might have been holding on to for years might have to be set down. How bad do you want that life? How bad do you want the money? How bad do you want the love? How bad do you want the experiences? How bad do you want to offer your children a life that you've never had? And not only offer it to them, but show them how they can create that for their children. It's one thing to do something in private and then hand something down to your children, but that's actually the biggest disservice that you can do. You have to show them. Because if you work hard for all of this money, right, to give them a free college, go, or give them a nice house, or give them money, that's all great. But if you aren't showing them how they can create their own empire, how they can build their own table, how they can live an authentic life and make monetary exchange for it, and have a love that is beautiful and sacred, and have a beautiful relationship with them, if you are not showing them, you're in disservice to your family, to your kids. You're in disservice to yourself. I heard this TikTok the other day, and it really caught me. This guy was saying, my great grandpa walked to work. My grandpa drove a Ford. My dad drove a BMW. I drive a Lamborghini. And he started going down and through this, but then explained, a couple generations after him was going to be walking again. And it hit me so hard because, yes, we can learn to do all these things, like work on ourselves to be able to have a relationship that's really beautiful and to have this abundance within ourselves and this love for ourselves. We can also work really hard to attain the monetary goals that we're here for. But the thing is, if we're not leading our children, our families, our people that are here with us, our friends, if we're not leading and showing them through embodiment of how we're doing these things, it's really not going to get passed on. And some people have so much focus around, generational wealth and all of this, but are you showing yourself? Are you actually enjoying the resources that you have available? Are you teaching your children they can actually be whoever they want to be and have all of the resources themselves, and this is how you do that? Are you showing them how to be in a relationship with yourself and with a partner that is sacred and real and authentic? Sit with that. And if you're getting triggered listening to this, sit with that. One of the things that y'all will find out very quickly about me is I am an illuminator. And I illuminate all of the parts and pieces and the shadowy aspects, and I will bring all of the triggers up, and you're welcome. And you're welcome. Because I'm here to help you expand. I am not here to just boost and stroke your ego. I am not here to be like, it's great, stay there, stay comfortable. Fuck that. That's not why we're here. We're here to expand. We're here to get uncomfortable. We're here to be triggered. I love getting triggered. I love getting stretched. I love being shown where I can be bigger, more aligned, more authentic, more embodied. And it's where I want to guide each of you who is going to be on this journey and this experience with me. You can do that. So as you're journaling through these pieces, as you're sitting in visualization or sitting in these spaces, I want to ask you to just bring no judgment. There's no room for judgment in this space. There's no need for judgment in this space. I would invite you deeply to sort out why certain pieces are operating like they are. Why is your operating system like this? Is it because you feel you have to show up in a certain way because you might get cast out of your family? People in business might think you're crazy. Your friends might be like, whoa, that's too woo-woo. I'm not here for that. Your kids may be like, what? Who are you? You know what? How much of a, what's the word? Courageous being? How much of a warrior are you? I'd even lean to say, if you know that your truth is not being expressed because you're worried about what everybody else thinks, it's a pretty cowardly place to be. And I know that if you are in my orbit, you are not a coward. But I may call you up pretty hard to step in as a lion. I may call you in pretty hard to lean into parts of yourself that will actually unlock who you really are. So in these reflections, don't bring judgment, but witness where you are. Where are the roots? Why am I not operating in a fully authentic embodied space? Why am I not fueling myself as a soul and a human? Why am I scared? And if it's because you're worried about what other people think, it's time to set that down. We're leaving that bag here. You're welcome to set it down here. We're going to leave them here. We'll alchemize them and clean them up later. Your life is yours. The space you are so freely giving for other people's opinions is taking up the space that could be giving you bigger joy, bigger expansion, more happiness. Don't let other people's opinions live in your energetic field. Their reactions and responses are not your responsibility, and you're actually gifting them when you expand. You're showing them that they too can change, that they too can expand, that they too can up-level. And it might trigger them immensely. They may be mad. They might be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing all this self-work? Why are you changing? Like, that's weird. Like, when did you start doing these things? And those are your opportunities to stand in who you are. Those are your opportunities to practice your embodiment, or it's an opportunity to shrink and compress because you want to be liked. Here goes good girl and good boy syndrome. Here goes fawning. Here goes people pleasing. All of that gets left at the door, y'all. It's not authentic embodied expression. And the beautiful thing is that I don't know how many personal testimonies I have to this, and even clients where they have stood bravely, courageously in who they are. And their lives have catalyzed into the most beautiful things. Deeper relationships with their children, with their spouses, with their friends, within their business. If you can be honest and true with yourself and what you want, and you allow your ego and all the programming that's been shoved in your brain to sit down, you get to have the most beautiful experience. And that's what we're ushering in here, y'all. Thank you so much for being a part of this first episode. Thank you so much for being in my space, for sharing space and time with me. The guests that are coming up over these next few weeks are incredible. I am so excited to introduce you to some of my tribe. I will also be coming in solo for episodes. We're going to be doing meditations, movement, clearings, activations, channeling about what's happening on the planet, calling you up and into your highest version of yourself, into your authenticity, into your embodiment. So buckle up, Buttercup, because this is going to be the experience of a lifetime. And I'm so grateful that you're here. If you want to find out any other ways to work with me outside of the Brittany Renee Experience podcast, we also have the Brittany Renee Experience, which is actually an in-person experience. Our next one is November 11th, the 11/11 portal, and 11/12 in New York City. We're in Manhattan. It is me and two other beautiful practitioners guiding you through deep, deep experience of who you truly are. The link for that is below in the description, as well as Instagram and TikTok. Those of you who have followed me on TikTok know me as that babe B. You also can find the Brittany Renee on Facebook, Instagram, thebrittanyrenee.com. And I have a monthly membership if you want to come into my inner circle, my little sacred support group. This is where we meet once a month for what's called a Haven Healing. We get in and activate, we channel and heal parts of us that need attention for that month. And then the other 2 weeks of the month, we have an off week. The other 2 weeks of the month, we are going, starting October 1, to start integrating movement sanctuaries together, where we are moving through in a somatic process parts of us that we need to allow to be seen, be alchemized, released, called in. So 3 out of the 4 weeks, you get to sit together with me. And if you guys hop in before October 1st, it is still $22 a month. You'll get grandfathered in, and then the price is going to go up as we add in the movement sanctuary. All replays, activations, healings, channelings, new moon activations are all in the back end. You've got over 2 years of content in there. I want to make it as accessible as possible. And please subscribe into here, drop what you thought about today, any standards you're going to set for yourself at this point, any spaces that you want to be held accountable for, you want to be witnessed in. I love you guys so much. I'm so grateful to be here. I cannot wait to be on this journey with you through this podcast. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I see you, and I will see you next week.